Time to party, everyone. It's Deep Dive Zone, a Sonic review series for fans of all shapes and sizes. I'm your host, Evan, joined by my comrades Lauren and Bruce, as usual. And, guys, I'm really glad to be done with Heroes, I'm gonna be honest.
Oh God, yes.
Really? You were like the softest, well, relatively, of all of us, so
I mean,
that's interesting to
yeah,
hear.
but to be fair, even Devin, I don't think Devin was all that positive about it at the end of the day.
I still don't love that game, but it's also that, when a game hurts you guys deeply, it doesn't make me happy.
Oh, really?
Huh. Yeah, why do you keep making us play those games then?
Because sometimes it makes me a little bit happy.
There you go.
Fair enough.
But for right now, we have a game that probably I would say hurts a little bit less than Sonic Heroes. We are
Yeah.
talking today about Sonic Battle, another Sonic fighting game. We haven't had one of those since Fighters.
True.
Yeah, and this is a very different kind of fighter from fighters.
Yeah, this is a 3D arena battle game,
Yeah.
which is a bad choice for the Game Boy Advance, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say that. It's a little weird on the GBA. Like, I think it works, but it's odd.
Yeah, you just don't get enough buttons.
You
This
really need
game,
four face buttons.
this game is just odd, at least to me. It's the Sonic game I always forget, and then when I remember it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe that's a Sonic game.
No, it is a weird arena battler where you choose different abilities before the match and you have different specials and healing and blocks and really long cutscenes full of text. That was the main thing that was making me apprehensive about covering this. And spoiler alert, we're doing one story per episode, and there's 8 of them.
I
But hopefully that pace will not crowd us too much.
don't think it will.
Yeah, we start off with Sonic story, wherein Sonic discovers a strange robot stranded on the beach, abandoned by Eggman. When it wakes up and begins copying his fighting moves, he nicknames it Emerald and investigates with Tails, while Shadow, Rouge, and Eggman-built copies hunt them down. Some help from Knuckles shows the robot grows stronger and smarter when it interacts with Chaos Emeralds.
The name Emerald is really stupid.
Tails says as much in the game, so
Yeah,
they know.
his comment like it's kind of a stupid name, Sonic. It's like, yeah, it is.
So, before we get into the first story, can I just say, like, the flaming eyeballs that greet you when you start the game, just like, they leave a weird impression. Like, I think it's supposed to be like Sonic on fire, maybe? Because it's Sonic style eyes, but it just
Right.
doesn't look like anything from Sonic.
This game has got a very distinct style about it.
That's definitely true. It's got, it's got a unique feel in every aspect because it has very different guitar synths than I'm used to
Yeah.
from Game Boy Advance games, and like even down to the story sections. The talk sprites have this sort of jagged, edgy look to them, which is in the box art as well.
Yeah, it looks pretty cool, but
I do like it.
Yeah, the look is definitely one of the stronger suits, I think.
yeah.
Well, and it's got the same quality sprite work from the Advance games. To the point where you would see these sprites mixed together a lot, in old sprite comics.
That makes sense.
Yes, I've seen some of these sprites before. I mean, I've seen the game before, a little
Yeah.
bit, but some of them are recognized from places outside of the game.
Right.
I mean, they're great sprites, and it's impressive because since this isn't 3D, you've got many different directions, and it looks good.
Yeah.
Lots of different sprites.
Yeah, which kind of brings us into some of the gameplay. I suppose we start out in the isometric hub world, which is a little weird for a story-based fighting game. It's just a weird game overall.
Hub World, it's got a similar problem, at least to me, as like Adventures Hub World.
Yeah, I would well, yeah, okay. I guess that's a fair comparison.
Also, you don't really have direct control over your character as well.
Yeah, I'm like, why is there a cursor? Was this supposed to be a
It's a
PC
pointer.
game?
You know what? It would probably be better off as a PC port because you'd have more controller buttons.
True.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's
very
very
strange.
strange.
You
Because
know, it's odd.
you end up being able to just kind of select objectives,
Right.
but then why was there a hub world in the first place?
Yeah, just
Yeah,
just take me from one scene to another.
exactly. Or maybe
Um,
make it a menu so you can just
Well,
say, I
yeah,
want to go here.
it would have to be a menu because obviously there's
There's optional stuff you can
optional
do.
stuff, yes, in the game. I do think the game actually starts out with the cutscene with Eggman, though, unless I'm remembering wrong,
No,
I
you're
where
right.
believe it does.
where it's just a very strange first impression because Eggman is just beating up a robot, which I don't think I've ever seen Eggman in the games do that. That's like a Robotnik from the comics or the shows thing to do, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and of
So
course,
that really surprised me.
it's all told with billboarded character portraits. So Eggman beating up the robot is, shown as vibrating sprites and then a punch sound effect.
Right, right. Which
Yeah.
adds to the weirdness.
It almost would made more sense to actually have like, I don't know, maybe show actual sprites.
Just draw
I don't know.
stills.
Yeah,
Yeah, stills may have been more effective.
it would have helped with a lot of the storytelling because when it's just mediocre visual novel storytelling, it's a little jarring.
Yeah.
But you just get thrown right into the middle
Yeah,
of things, and Eggman, like I said, is beating up what will be later called Emerald, but at that point you don't know who they are, and they're just taking it and doing nothing in return. And Eggman's like, "Give me back my Chaos Emerald," and I'm like, "What?" It's just confusing, which
all
is
it
the
is,
point, I think. But it's odd that
yeah.
you started out with that.
Yeah, which, I'm not even sure if that works, because I was trying to keep track of the emeralds in this game, because, spoiler alert, this game does have 7 emeralds, I'm pretty sure. But they're all
Oh wow!
green, and some of them get cut into pieces.
What?
Whoa! Spoilers.
Yeah, God, Devin, spoilers.
And also throwback to the comics,
Oh
with all
yeah,
green emeralds.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think there are 7, but it's really hard to know which one is which. Um,
That's really stupid that they're all green.
yeah,
That's
and
an
I'm pretty
odd
sure they
choice.
just used the frigging Master Emerald sprite from the Advance 1 intro.
Yeah, but yeah, eventually you do get launched into the game, and Sonic does meet Emerald, and like I am surprised because like right off the bat he's like, "Oh wow, are you okay?" Like, "Oh, let's see if I can take you back to Tails and help you." And I'm just like, huh? You know, there's been Gamma and there's been Omega, but I didn't realize Sonic is already accustomed to Eggman robots that are just totally friendly.
Yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
know
does he
if...
know for sure already that this is an Eggman robot?
Well, I mean, it's
Well,
not one.
Well, I know it's not. He's not actually an Eggman robot, but Eggman was using him.
Does he believe
okay,
it to be
at
one?
this point in the
Right,
game, you're meant to assume as much.
right,
Um,
right.
Yeah.
So I guess my
and
question: does Sonic know that,
Tails
or
assumes as
assume
much
that?
as well. I don't know if Sonic does or not. It's honestly hard to read him. His actions are a little
Fair,
strange.
fair enough.
And adding to the strangeness again, these cutscenes are just odd. There's a bit where like Emerald is not saying anything, and Sonic is like, "Oh, you want me to show you want me to show you my power?" And he like holds up a fist, and the screen darkens. It's like, what are you doing?
He's
I,
showing
I,
him his power.
since when could Sonic like channel energy or something like that in a normal
I
form?
mean, some chaos bullshit.
Maybe he does a
I
choreographed dance routine, and that's what it is.
Oh yes, that'll definitely show his power.
The
That would...
problem is that we can't actually see what he's doing because again,
Right.
these portraits,
Yeah,
and
we have
so it's
these visual
strange.
novel ass cutscenes.
Yeah. Emerald basically just starts following Sonic around at this point, so he... I don't know if
He
this
like
is when...
imprints on Sonic.
Yeah,
Yep.
basically. Um, so they're gonna head back, they're gonna talk to Tails, but they get interrupted by a random Shadow the Hedgehog who is here.
A
Yep.
random Shadow the Hedgehog has
Shadow is
appeared.
is is around.
He's just
Now
vibing,
you said that this wasn't originally intended to take place after Sonic Heroes,
I
but I
believe
mean,
it wasn't.
it sure do seem like
Okay,
that
okay, no, no,
because
no,
he's
no.
just there.
Sorry,
Well,
sorry.
so
This was gonna take place after Sonic Heroes. This game came out on the same day as Sonic Heroes. What I
right.
think is that it was not originally meant to take place after Shadow the Hedgehog, which it has to because Shadow has all of his memories. This is a post Shadow the Hedgehog Shadow personality where he's, kind of aggressive and grumpy, but ultimately trying to do the right thing.
So I actually looked into that
Okay.
after you mentioned that previously. I think that was on. I was after an episode. So Sonic Heroes and Sonic Battle were developed at the same time with no communication between the two teams.
Wow.
So the Sonic Battle Team knew they wanted to include Shadow, but had no idea what the Sonic Heroes team was planning on doing with Shadow. So
Ah,
they just kind of did like, okay, well, because they knew Shadow was being brought back for Heroes because he's a fan favorite. He was at that point already a fan favorite.
So they just had no idea he was going to have amnesia.
They had no idea he was going to have amnesia, so they're just like, all right, Shadow's back, assumingly he remembers everything.
So I guess we just retroactively placed this game after Shadow because of that
Yeah,
screw up.
it has to be after
well,
Shadow because of that.
that is funny. Okay. Well, that's confusing enough.
Yeah.
But even in this game, if you've somehow played Shadow the Hedgehog before this game, it's still confusing because once again, Shadow's just like completely aware of what Emerald is, and he's just like, Sonic, you have to let me destroy it. And once again, they're really just it's the sort of we'll explain everything later style of storytelling, but they're really they do it for a while, and it's really funny because there's this bit. The first choice in the game, let me add, where Shadow's like, "Give me that robot," and the player, as Sonic, can either say yes or no, but it's a forced choice. And if you say yes, he's like, you didn't think I would simply say yes, did you? Which, first of all, two things. One, why did you make the first choice in the game that? That's so weird to make it a forced choice. And second of all,
That is really odd.
I have no reason to be like, no, don't destroy this robot. There's literally I have nothing on Emerald. I'm just like, yeah, it could be dangerous. Shadow's right.
Your reason to say no is because Sonic is a nice dude and doesn't want Robot to die.
Is that just a thing now that robots are like beings worthy of respect? If that's true, then why does Sonic go and destroy most robots rather than trying to like get Tails to reprogram them?
I think we're just assuming that Emerald is supposed to be special. That's all it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, but they just make you assume that. Like you're just like
I'm not saying it's well
believe it.
justified.
No, I know that's the idea. I'm saying it's not delivered well at all.
Yeah, no, I mean it isn't. You're not wrong.
Well, whatever the case, it results in our first proper battle of the game, and immediately you're gonna be confused because the game starts off by saying, "Hey, pick one of these three things, asshole."
Yeah, there's no kind of real tutorial. It just throws you right into the thick of it.
Okay, yes.
Excuse me, there is a tutorial, but it's after this fight, and it's only for certain aspects of fighting.
Yes. I was like, did I miss a tutorial? I went back to the menu, and I was like, okay, training mode, great. Training mode doesn't explain anything. It just lets you screw around. I'm like, well, that's no help. So yeah, literally, they do the tutorial after the first fight. Again, what is in the heads of the designers for this game? They didn't think a lot of things through, did they?
This feels like they wanted to make a fighting game, and it was a bit of a rush job for the gameplay aspect.
Well,
guess
so it's like the mechanics in themselves are not
They're
unworkable.
solid enough. No,
Yeah.
they're solid enough.
But yeah,
a
the
lot
way
of
that it's
stuff
explained.
around the mechanics feel like they're rushed.
Well, and you know, the fact that it presents you, so what it presents you with is option selection for attack types for special attacks, because your R button is all of your special attacks, and you can either choose for, you know, your specific quote-unquote power type special attack, your shot type special attack, and your trap type special attack.
but it calls that one set, so you don't know what the heck that means.
And you are choosing in order which one the R button will do on the ground, which one the R button will do in the air, and which one the R button won't do at all, but you will automatically guard against from enemies.
Is that actually how that works? You
Yes.
just always guard against it?
Interesting.
Yeah, it cannot hurt you.
Huh.
I didn't understand that because I swear there were enemies I fought where I would hit them with an attack and they would guard against it, and then I would keep hitting them, and then at some point they would actually not guard against it before they die. So I swear it doesn't work that way unless I'm just hallucinating.
In my experience, you know, my thing was always that I would switch up which one I was using on the AI, because basically whatever you kill it with, it'll try to guard against the next life. So, I don't know.
I guess I never experienced that because I mostly just used regular attacks.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't work that way. Because that would be really stupid design too if that were the way it works.
Well, so that's interesting also because that's how a lot of fighting game AI works. Is they'll start once you kill them with something, they will start specifically guarding against that attack.
Yeah, it's meant to prevent spam, but it really just encourages alternating spam. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe yours work different than mine. Whatever the case,
Point
if you
is-
guys were mostly using normal attacks, then wow, because I was always used to spamming the specials in this game.
To be honest, I didn't. The specials didn't seem very effective to me.
No, I did use the specials a lot, actually. But I didn't understand what I was doing, because point is, I don't understand how this game works, really. I tried to read Devin's tips. They kind of helped.
I tried reading the tips also. They didn't really help me.
I'm
I
not
have
really a
failed.
fighting game guy anyway, but this game is much more confusing than Sonic the Fighters.
Sonic the Fighters is very much a game you can get away with just button mashing. This is a game where you kind of have to use some strategy.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so you can, if you want, just run up to Shadow and mash the B button until he goes flying off.
Yeah.
But then the game doesn't explain anything like pursuit attacks, where you have to press the same direction you just launched somebody, and it'll shoot you forward to hit them out of the air if you time the button press correctly.
Oh, that's an actual thing? I thought I was just... See, that's a perfect example. The game not explaining anything, or not explaining anything well enough. It explains how to do heavy attacks, and that's it.
Yeah, it tells you to do like a few different attacks later, but it doesn't give you any of the nuances. I mean, it doesn't even give you like the basic techniques.
Yeah, games generally will do that.
Newer fighting games try to at least tell you a few tricks.
Yeah, they'll generally give you some tips and give you the basics, but they don't tell you like, I can't think of anything.
I don't expect a fighting game to explain you the mechanics that the developers did not intend and just happened.
I don't expect Melee to explain to me how to wave dash, but
Exactly.
I expect Melee to explain to me that A is attack.
But yeah, I did just button mash through this as long as I could.
More or less did the same thing.
And, for this fight, that serves you perfectly fine, and...
Oh, yeah.
It does, though, introduce my biggest gripe with this game overall, which is that you have to kill Shadow 3 times, basically. And that's not very...
That's mostly fine.
Yeah, that's not a long fight. And then they say, oh, he's not done yet, do it again 5 times.
Thank you, I'm so glad I'm not the only one who found the double fights annoying.
I have a note about laughing when Rouge did it, because I didn't realize it would become a trend.
Yeah, exactly. I was confused why I had to fight Rouge for a second time, whereas I do not have a specific note mentioning that for Shadow.
It's still annoying. You might as well just give them more lives. Or better yet, don't do that because this game is long enough on its own.
Just make every fight 5 lives. Why do some of the later fights have to be 10 lives?
I didn't even think about that, but you are completely correct. There's no reason to rack on the lives.
Yeah, this game is already long enough, and you're basically required to grind if you don't cheat.
Yes. Yeah. Do we want to go on with the story, though?
We should probably go on with the story.
Yeah, so Shadow gets dunked, and they head to Tails' place, but get ambushed by an E-121 Phi unit, which is a gray copy of Emerald.
Robotnik's robots are just E-series now?
Yeah, I don't know how that counts. I don't know.
These are E-series?
Yeah, E-120. Yeah, that's the code name.
I swear that happens after you encounter Rouge, unless you don't fight it.
I'm pretty
I'll have
sure
a note of every fight that I went through.
My note says Sonic destroys an E-121 and leaves Emerald with Tails, then goes to beat women, so I assume that's Rouge.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, you know what it could be is we might have done an optional fight, because I pulled up a guide and I just did only the required fights.
Oh, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah,
Which maybe we should talk about the optional fights now. This game gets really confusing later. It's not so confusing here. You're just gonna fight a few extra things, but you'll figure it out. But yeah, through and about the map, sometimes it tells you generally where to go, but other times you're not quite sure, and there are just, little objectives to check out. Well, the problem is that the alternative objectives, in my opinion anyway, aren't particularly interesting. They're just kind of, oh, great, fight this thing you've already fought a million times, again.
Yeah.
Well, and it's always going to be Phi units or Garg robos, which is just, it's just a pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's because the game, there is a good variety of characters in this game. The problem is there are too many fights, and it suddenly feels like there isn't.
Yeah, absolutely. For right now, that isn't immediately obvious. The fight with Rouge here, I would say Rouge is one of the more annoying characters to fight against, because her wings, her air action is that she has a slow descent, but almost all of your abilities will knock her into the air in some way.
Okay, yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, the Rouge fights become tedious for that reason. Well, more tedious. It's annoying. Before we get into the fight, though, let me just say, what have they done with Rouge's character? Because suddenly Sonic is like, I have enough girls chasing me as is, which I guess one girl, Amy, would be enough for Sonic.
Yeah.
But second of all, he's like, oh, you're just looking for a boyfriend? Like, that's not how Rouge operates, and that's not actually how Rouge operates here either. But Sonic thinks that's the case, and I don't know why.
In fairness, I don't think
Bad
Sonic and Rouge have
localization.
spoken a word to each other at this point. They didn't in Heroes. They might not have in Adventure 2.
Yeah, I think you're right.
This is more a Sonic problem that he just assumes any woman he sees is automatically attracted to him, which, in
Damn,
fairness,
Sonic.
is true for a lot of the series, but still,
True, but that's still.
he shouldn't assume it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got the impression that the writers thought there was a reason for him to think that, like they misunderstood Rouge's past or something. But you're right, it could just be Sonic.
No,
Still.
I think Rouge's own personality is pretty consistent in this game.
No. That's true, but it's weird.
It is a weird
Very
moment.
weird. But yeah, I like I said, it was actually I found it funny this first time when you beat Rouge, and she's just like, I won't give up so easily, and I was just like, wait, you could do that? You could get beaten, and then you just be like, no, I'll fight you again.
More.
It's actually quite comical this one time.
Yeah, exactly. This one time.
Yeah, it's very strange. And it's like, it's not like the fight is really any different, so it's like, what's the point?
No, it's just more health, which is annoying.
Right. So later, some of the fights
Not
are a little
more health.
different, and that
Excuse
makes
me.
sense.
Excuse me, not more health, more lives.
No,
Yeah.
that I don't count that as being different.
No,
And I think
yeah.
the AI is probably a little harder too. But
Is it?
well, probably. I don't know.
I mean, it's so early on that even if it was just a slight bump up in AI intelligence, I don't think it would be noticeable.
I'm just assuming because the other fights, that's definitely true.
Yeah,
Really? I don't think I ever noticed that they felt any different.
it's really hard to tell.
Well, I'm bad at this game, so yeah.
I mean, I don't think I'm particularly great at this game, so
Anyway, so we donk Rouge. She's like I'll get you someday, Gadget or something. I don't know.
She's being a agent for somebody.
Yeah, well, she mentioned her boss like all elusively. It's like, are we just talking about the president again?
Well,
yes, I believe so.
yes, actually, they reveal that later. But
I haven't played that far, so.
you played Tales' story, didn't you?
Sorry, never mind. It is mentioned in Tails' story. This game's story is.
We're not gonna dwell on it.
Yeah.
So, we learn from Tails what Emerald's whole gimmick is in this game, and we get tutorialized on it a little bit, maybe not as much as it should be.
Yeah, not nowhere near as much as we should be.
Emerald's whole thing is that he copies abilities and powers, and by pressing the R button on the map screen and the map screen only, you can customize his moveset with anything you've obtained. The problem with this is that it is entirely random which ability cards you get, and you can get repeats, and they require skill points to equip, which the game is very stingy about, and doesn't tell you exactly how much each card takes to equip.
So I appreciate that you mentioned only on the map screen, because there are multiple times where Sonic says, you can press the R button now if you want to modify Emerald's skills, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah, they say it in a cutscene before a fight, but you can't get out of the cutscene before the fight starts.
It's interesting on paper. You've listed most of the reasons why it's imperfect, but I do like it. I like customizable characters. That's great. It takes you a long time to actually get to a point where you can really customize it to your liking.
Yeah.
But it's cool in theory, and I think it is somewhat cool in practice. I don't know. The weirdest thing for me is that they just kind of throw Emerald fights in the middle of the stories at random times, and the rest of the time, you don't use Emerald, and that makes me feel like, I don't know, it's like a little.
To
they
me,
didn't utilize as much as
to me, it feels like the idea is to build Emerald up for multiplayer.
Well, because this game
even think about that.
This game did have link cable multiplayer, and the
Right.
idea of 4 people going at each other with their own
With their
custom
emeralds.
emeralds is a really cool idea.
That's awesome. I didn't even think about that. That would
Well, of
actually
course
be
you
cool.
didn't, because this game does not does not make a great justification for it.
No, it doesn't.
I wish that there was like, obviously this would require restructuring the game completely, but it would make more sense if there was like an emerald story that, well, probably it would be available alongside the other stories, or perhaps between stories you would have an emerald story, just so you know have a longer chance to use him and get used to him and experiment, rather than, oh, hey, this fight, hey, emerald, sick him. Oh, never mind, I'll do it this time.
Well, and this is the thing, is that his default moveset is a imperfect copy of Sonic's, and when I say imperfect, I mean really fucking imperfect, because he is weak as shit.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say this right now. I cheated to get all the emerald skills and maxed out skill points so I can make emerald actually usable.
Don't worry.
By default,
I committed
have-
worse sins than that later.
Oh, okay.
by
That's gonna be
default,
interesting.
the drop rate on skills is pretty low, and that means
Yeah.
that for a large section of the game, I would say at least the first 3 stories and maybe longer, you will be left without a lot of significant attacks that you need, because literally, the first hit of the combo, the second hit of the combo, and the third hit of the combo, those are all separate skills that require their own skill points and their own card
Right.
drops, which is part of the reason probably that they crowded it with so many fights instead of just increasing the drop rate for some reason. But then you also have skills for standing position, and walking animation, and jumping animation, and air
I don't
action,
understand.
and air attack, and dash action, which, you get that by double tapping. I don't know if you guys even know that that's what that is.
Yeah, I did. I did know that, but I don't understand a lot of that.
There's a block skill and a heal skill, and then all 3 of your ground, air, and guard fucking special categories have options for all 3 of your shot, power, and trap attacks, which means that you have to get so many cards, and sometimes you might even get a rare card, like a color card, that does nothing. It just changes your color, and it's like, why would you give me that instead of something useful?
I'm glad to know that that the color cards are in fact useless, like I expected them to be.
I didn't even see them. Yeah, so it's funny because everything you're saying would actually be awesome if it wasn't extremely limited. Like,
yeah, if it doled it out to you in a
astounding how much
decent portion.
customization there is.
Right.
Because they made emerald versions of every character in the game's moves and attacks, and they made sprites for all that, which is cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Definitely. You talked about how the basic attacks are really terrible, and you're right, they are terrible, but they're also amusing. I like, for instance, the range attack, where he'll spin upwards and then just no projectile will come out. And similarly, the other attacks just like don't quite finish correctly. It's just fun, but not fun when you're playing with it, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the central mechanic of Emerald. But like we see, we get all this information dumped on us, and then we're like, all right, well, I guess we better start looking for Chaos Emeralds, because that's what this thing uses, right?
Because of course it has to be Chaos Emeralds.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's funny that this is yet another ally of Eggman's that you give Chaos Emeralds because more powerful. It's just how it works.
It's always Chaos Emeralds. Why can't it be like, I don't know, fucking give them oil?
So okay, yeah, okay, thank you. Yes,
Taco Bell gift
be
cards.
Oil, I suppose. That would be well. Yeah, I just don't want the plots to center around MacGuffins. It gets tiring after a while.
I mean, or he could just be powerful from the beginning, and he doesn't need to be powered up. And the
Maybe
Chaos
he just
Emeralds
needs, his
is
Dragon Ball
automated
training arc.
Exactly. Well, the idea behind Emerald, that makes sense. He replicates abilities, so just train with him.
That would be hilarious.
They do,
like
they specifically say, oh yeah, if you want him to get even better, give him a Chaos Emerald, or give him all 7. And it's like, no. The whole point of him as a fucking character is that he can replicate moves and abilities.
I like the idea of making it a more character-driven story. Like, here they're gonna go to Knuckles and they're like, hey, they're gonna ask if they can borrow his Chaos Emerald, which I'm pretty sure Emerald absorbs the Emerald, so I'm not sure that's how that works. But the idea of not doing that, but instead going to Knuckles because, hey, we want this robot to beat you up.
I mean,
if you
he would
explain
take
it,
that up.
I was about to say, if
Yeah.
you explain it that way, Knuckles would 100% go for it. He'd be like, yeah, sure.
I will say, once again, I find it extremely odd that they're like, oh, let's train Emerald and feed them Chaos Emeralds. Like, there's like no motivation that I can see. It seems to just be Tails has suddenly become a scientist that does science for the sake of science.
This has become the kids show episode where they get a new pet and they can't have a hold over it, but everybody's telling them how dangerous it is.
Also, during this training, I got one of Tails' attacks, and I was like, "Oh, the IQ 400 attack."
Yes, I have
Wait,
a note.
is Tails' canon IQ?
That means he's smarter than Robotnik, because Eggman's
True.
got an IQ of 300.
Well, so each Tails attacks are called like IQ 200, IQ
Right.
300, IQ 400. So
Does it all add up, or does his IQ fluctuate?
I think
I
it
thought
fluctuates.
that he came up with them as he got smarter and older. And
There
this
you
isn't even his final form. You're gonna see it IQ 500 and beyond.
As Tails gets older and older, his attacks get better and better and stupider names.
Amazing. So they go to the Knuckles area, which it's really weird because I don't know if this is on Angel Island or just below it or something, but it's
Well, it sure seems like it's not, because
I'm pretty sure it's not.
we kind of glossed over the fact that we're just in a city called Emerald Town.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do want to mention Tails' house in Emerald Town is this big ass house shaped like his head.
Yeah.
Yes.
Also, I have another thing to mention about Tails' house. Based off the dialogue, it sounds like Sonic's never been there. As I quote, Sonic says, "So this is Tails' house."
Yeah.
The man's
No,
never seen
it's
his
possible we've
inside
never
his
seen it.
house. Well, no, we saw his house in Mystic Ruins.
No, that's his workshop.
God
Tails
damn it.
Tails has a house and he has a workshop and he also has a
Right.
lab apparently because that's a separate location in
Right.
this game. But in
At least the
canon,
lab
Well,
in
except
the
that's not his
house.
lab.
in canon, they still use
wait,
the Mystic Ruins
what?
workshop and they still sometimes show Tails at this specific house. So that's his actual place of living.
All right. Fascinating. Okay.
What they don't show is Knuckles' house in this mystic, what do they call it? Mystic Babylon or something?
They call it Holy Summit.
Yeah,
Holy Summit. Yeah. No idea what the deal is with that.
Pretty
He
sure
does. He does
I'm-
have a house here, as you can see.
Does he? I thought he just lived in a cave.
Well, that's what I was calling his house.
Oh.
The
Yeah,
game calls it his
well,
house.
Well,
Yeah.
living in a cave tracks for Knuckles. Knuckles would just live in a cave.
Yeah, so I have no idea where the hell this is, but if it's not on Angel Island, Knuckles, you're shirking your duties, buddy.
So
I mean, how often is he actually on Angel Island
at this point in the series, it actually seems like he's completely abandoned Angel Island, which is like a huge character thing, and I'm surprised they didn't touch on. But that's totally what it seems like because he's not been there. And like I said before, like we observed Angel Island fell, and we haven't seen it come back up. So I'm like, I guess he just left, and now he's
Except
like,
he
oh,
missed
the
it.
Holy Summit is my home now.
Well, and as we know from SA2 at least, he can shrink the Master Emerald and bring it around with him.
Well, I haven't seen the Master Emerald yet. And in fact, I was actually like, are we going back to the comics? Is there not a Master Emerald? Is it just a Chaos Emerald that he has?
I don't remember
I
if the
mean-
game ever mentions the Master Emerald.
That's
It
a good
totally
point.
could be. So let me just say right now,
So this
that
is
this game
Archie continuity.
really seems to just make up new like locations and
So I
for
think
Yeah.
stuff
that
out of nowhere that don't seem linked.
that feels like that also tracks really well with the idea that there was no communication between the main team working on Heroes and then the side team working on Battle.
Yeah. Because this is not Dimps, I might add.
Who was the developer? Was it internal?
I think it is just Sonic Team. I haven't
Okay,
checked,
so
so
it's some sort of Sonic Team B team.
you'll see it on screen when I check. but-
Right.
Yeah, so Knuckles area. So we go and see Knuckles, and Knuckles basically just gets really angry.
I guess
mean-
maybe I did this out of order.
Wait, no,
Well,
you
I swear there was a required fight before that.
There is. You're skipping
is-
something there, Devin.
Oh, do you do
A
the
very
sparring
big
at the
thing.
ruins first?
Yeah, yeah.
No,
There's an even big. There's a actually.
there's a thing that's like
fight.
screwing with my head.
Yeah, the guard robo.
It's well, it might be a guard robo.
Well, I guess yeah.
So
It's
I was minding my own business, playing this game, and I was like, okay, holy seven, this is weird. This is an ancient island. All the things we just said. Then I went on a location, and suddenly Gamma
yeah. Gamma just shows up.
out of
Oh, you guys
nowhere.
did that first.
I swear
don't
you
see
have
how-
to do it
Yeah,
first.
I'm pretty sure you have to do it first.
Okay, then my notes must be horribly out of order.
They must be. Damn. Yeah.
Yes,
I'm
so-
like sure you have to do it first.
Gamma is here. Gamma in quotation marks.
Yeah, and then you blow them up, and then they're just like, I guess that wasn't Gamma.
Yeah, he detonates.
But
and everyone's like, "Oh, whatever.
But so me at this point was still like, wait, brought in Gamma, and you're like, maybe it's Gamma, and then you blew him up, and then it's like, that's it. Like literally, the game just shelves him for now. He'll come back later, but the character's just like, well, whatever, moving along. And so the reason this is screwing with my head so much is I saw Gamma, and I'm like, what? Well, I was really confused because they called him Gamma.
Reaction. Yeah,
I'm
fair
like-
reaction.
Yes, it's their reaction. Because I saw Gamma lights before in Sonic Adventure 2.
Yeah,
But-
the E1000s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they look different though. This is designed exactly like Gamma. And in the fight, he has the same voice lines.
Oh yeah, that's right. He does have the same voice.
Another thing, actually. Sorry, this is just confusing on so many levels. I have to mention everything. When
It's fine.
you beat the second fight, the game, I'm like, okay, so this is just another Gamma lookalike, and then the game says you unlocked Gamma, and I'm like, what?
I noticed that. That really threw me off.
So literally, what's going on in my head? Man, I wish it wasn't spoiled. Oh well, was like, is the game actually resurrecting Gamma? Because that's seriously what I thought at this point, and I'm like, why did I never hear about this?
Yeah, because it's not like it does anything with his character, and it's not like it really does anything with the characters reacting to him, because they're just like,
Yeah.
oh, is that Gamma? And then later they're like, no, it's not, and they're like, oh.
All right. Yeah. Literally, just it's not. Oh, okay.
He is a pain in the ass to fight, though, because... Well, at least he is for me, because whenever I fight things, I like to get up close and personal. But if you reduce his health to 0, whenever he loses a life, he explodes, and that does massive damage and can easily kill you.
I actually like that, because once you
So-
realize it's there, it's not difficult to avoid.
Yeah, it's super easy to avoid.
And it really gave me a good laugh the first time it happened.
It is funny the first time it happens, and then you just jump away as soon as he falls over.
Depends on if I'm playing someone that's fast enough to make that turn. Or if I've fucking sealed myself into a corner, which I definitely do in this game.
Well, I mean, that's a you problem.
I find it funny that the voice line that signals it is recovery mode engaged. You really screwed that one up, didn't you?
Yeah, initiating recovery mode. Last game to have Jean St. John in it, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just because there's no robots in Advance 3 that talk.
Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough.
And I will say, the exploding thing, that is, if you get Gamma's standing animation for Emerald, he gets the explosion thing, so that's a great skill to get for him.
Yes, that is a great skill.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, weird non sequitur before we
It's
finally get to Knuckles.
So fucking weird.
So, the thing with Knuckles is, like, when you fight him with just, like, Sonic and Tails, it's like, oh, this is fun, this is fine. And, you know, he gets angry. The weird thing is that Knuckles gets angry about Emerald because he says, I saw that robot on TV. So Knuckles has a TV.
Apparently so.
Yeah, sure, why not?
How does he get electricity in a cave?
Master Emerald.
He just plugs it into the Emerald?
Yes, the Master Emerald powers his TV. Knuckles seems like he would have, like, a bunch of appliances just jammed into the Master Emerald.
Oh, his RGB gamer setup.
I'm glad I didn't have any water in my mouth when you said that.
I want to see Knuckles as a Twitch streamer.
I mean, there's other Sonic VTubers.
Yeah, but so you fight Knuckles here, and I feel like he's fine to fight with Sonic and Tails, but the game throws you into an Emerald versus Knuckles solo fight, and it sucks.
Yeah, this is before I cheated in all of skill cards. I didn't do that until Tails' story. Yeah, this was a terrible fight. I actually was reading online about how some people felt about this game. This seems to be a big wall for a lot of people.
Yeah. So the first
Understandably.
fight is not
The first fight's not
ridiculous,
awful. The second time you have to fight him
but the
as
second
Emerald,
fight, Knuckles
yeah,
becomes actually smart.
competent, you know.
And okay, so do some skill cards give like Emerald more health?
I think
That's a
something
good
might.
question.
Because why the heck is it that every time Knuckles hits me, he does a minimum of 2/3 of my health bar damage?
Strong.
Because yeah, I mean,
It's absolutely absurd.
look at those
Uh,
fists.
yeah, I was like, what? What are you doing, game? This is ridiculous. And so yeah, at this point, I was yeah, I just don't have the time, and so yeah, I just
Yeah.
invincibility.
Yeah, I ended up at this fight just turning on an invincibility cheat and just brute forcing my way through it. Fun fact: so we haven't mentioned this yet. There's a charge gauge as well that
See,
charges as you take damage or as you attack, and you can also
this is
manually
yeah,
charge
this
it.
is where you learn to cheese the game if you do not
Yes.
cheat. Because this game, every character has, the L button. First it does a block, and then if you hold it, it does a heal, which is another case of we didn't have enough buttons. But if you heal, it obviously heals, but it also charges your special meter, and you can also get that by, I think you get it by taking damage, and you get a lot of it from blocking, which is why it's always good to intentionally run into whatever attack you're guarding against. But basically, you charge up the special meter, and then your next special attack that you use will have this, like, electric effect, and it'll do insta-kill damage against the
Right.
enemy.
So, fun fact: the enemy can also do that, and even if you have an invincibility cheat, it will take one of your lives.
So
At least
I have
for the cheats I
never,
was
I've
using.
never seen an enemy yet
Oh, I had
uh
Knuckles do it on me like five
do that to
times.
me. That's interesting. I never, no, literally in my experience, the enemy would start flashing and then they would never use it.
Yeah, I mean, what I found was they use it once, and if they started flashing again during the fight, they wouldn't use it.
Hmm. Maybe they just
Yeah.
always miss me. I don't know.
Yeah, I had to learn to abuse the special meter to win against
Fair
Knuckles
enough.
with Emerald because
I
he
mean,
is too
fair enough. Yeah.
underpowered.
Yes, he is. He is
It's
100%.
ridiculous.
He
Yeah,
really is.
completely.
I don't know. It feels like it wasn't play tested. Like anybody should have been able to get there and think, "Wow, this sucks."
I mean, here's the thing: the people who actually made the game are probably a lot better at the game than we are.
They had
It
no
might be a
money
case
for
of
playtesters.
understanding.
I mean, yes, this that's also probably true. This was a sub. This was a secondary project made by a B team. I doubt Sega bothered wanted to pay for playtesters.
Well, and it might be a case of developers know their own systems, and so a
Yes.
developer would know that you actually attack in the direction that you're pressing on the D-pad, even
Right.
if that's up or down, which does not reflect in the sprites.
Yes.
So maybe it's a case of that makes them better at aiming than me, because I definitely felt like I
Probably.
was missing a lot, and you will miss a lot if you don't understand that you can hold up or down to attack in those directions. It's not just left and right, which maybe just makes sprites to reflect that. I know that's a lot more work, but still.
I mean, with how many sprites they already made for this game, I
Well, then don't make
cannot
it an
believe.
arena fighter. Don't
Well,
make
no,
it a
it should
3D
have been
game on
a
the Game Boy
standard.
Advance.
It should have been a standard 2D fighter. That would have been made so
Yeah.
much more sense for the GBA. As much as I'm not a particularly big fan of those, I would have respected it a lot more than this kind of mechanically fine, but executionally kind of iffy.
Yeah. So that's the final boss of Sonic's story, though.
Yeah, it's a really
Mm,
anticlimactic end.
yeah, literally.
I mean,
I
that's
Extremely.
when I was playing, it was just like Sonic's like, oh great, cool, Chaos Emerald for Emerald, cool, and then just ended. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, Emerald
That's the
eats the
end.
Chaos Emerald. He has a nice
The
crunchy
credits
munch.
roll and everything.
Yeah, they do. Like,
yeah.
what the fuck?
The Chaos Emerald powers up Emerald so he can get more skill points, obviously. He gets actually like 10 of them. And he can also speak short sentences now, so that's going to be fun.
I mean, when you say speak short sentences, he's just repeating whatever the last thing said to him was.
Oh yeah, no, actually I'm going to be honest, as the game goes on, I actually really like Emerald as a character. So
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how you guys react to him.
I'm curious, yeah.
But that's it. That's Sonic's story.
Yay.
Yeah. I would say this is not the best foot for the game to get off on. I think that there are a lot of better stories in this game.
Well, I have not played most of them, but I'll believe you because this one wasn't great.
It wasn't terrible, but it really was not a great way to start off. Like, I feel like just making it a little longer would have been better.
No, this game does not need extra length. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, it's Sonic's story. You know,
Yeah, I
he's
think
the
that what
main
Bruce is saying is
guy.
Sonic should have been the protagonist for longer.
Well, I mean, I already don't understand the purpose behind Emerald's existence in the first place.
But yeah, that would have helped, giving sort of more meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or, you
well,
know,
and for me, it's like
into different stories.
Yeah, the story
You know?
is weird in terms of how it's written, but I would not have as much problem with that were the game that I was playing more balanced. It just feels unbalanced right now.
I cannot think of another fighting game that has an actual like overall narrative that is structured like this, where each character gets their own little story. All the ones I can think of just have you jumping around between characters.
I
That
would-
made more sense.
No,
Why
I think
not
that a
just
lot of
do
traditional
that?
fighting games have character stories exactly like that, because that's what like Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat do, I'm pretty sure. But the difference is that those stories all take place at the same time, whereas all of this game's stories are sequential.
I mean, I know for a fact Mortal Kombat 9 does not do that.
Alright, whatever. I don't know anything about fighting games. But yes, it's a really weird start to the game.
It's just weird that it acts like it's an ending when it really definitely isn't.
Oh, I mean, yeah, there's no reason to act like this is a big ending.
Yeah, I don't know why you need to play the credits for each individual character. It's weird.
I don't have
That
anything
sure
else.
was Sonic's episode of Sonic Battle.
Yep, that is going to be it for tonight. It was a weird time. But next week, we are continuing with more of this game, featuring Tails and his story. So that's going to be hopefully better. I think it's a little bit better. I don't really remember. But with all that said, thank you all so much for watching. If you would like to contact us anywhere, you can find our link tree in the description. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, I would love to have a comment on this video. I would love to have likes, comments, subscriptions, and shares. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you next Sunday. And take care.